This video is going to go into a different direction today. We're going to pull away from the programming of the political drama of the week and prepare for the future by understanding the energetic design of the human state, something that I call the nature of the beast, meaning the crude animal nature common to humans. Why is it so hard to stay on the path? Why do things anger or upset me? How can I be more Christ-like? These are questions that so many of us wrestle with, especially in these times of financial hardships and political uncertainty. I've talked about how we are energy, how one of the greatest minds of all times, Nikola Tesla, told us that everything is energy and science is finally catching up to him. We've talked about how we can keep our frequency high. We've talked about how we attract what we put out. Today we are going to talk about why we sometimes do such bad things if we are energetic beings. Well, the first thing to understand is that energy doesn't mean good or bad. Remember, we aren't talking about how much pep is in our step. We are talking about our vibrational frequency, which affects everything from our happiness to our health. So how do people get so low that they can do such horrible things to others? There are many experiences that happen in our life that create our future. Let me give you an example. When I was in my late 20s, I was a young mother in junior college. I met this guy, but there was never anything inappropriate, as I was married at the time and I told him so. Well, it took many years for this memory to come back to me. But this guy stalked me. I told him that I was going to Nassau and would be gone for a few days. I was with a friend, and we both had our 5-year-old daughters who were best friends. The first night that we were there, we went to the casino. We each had our own drinks, so nobody bought us anything. But this guy from college in Florida walks up to us with a friend. I asked what he was doing in Nassau, and he said that he had relatives with a home there and that he visits often. That's the last thing I remember except for vague flashbacks of being raped on the second story of a home, and I believe my friend was downstairs in the same situation. We woke up in our hotel room, the babysitter was paid, and when we woke up, it was like we were in a fog for nearly a week. Back at school, I'd see him in the halls and he'd look away and never spoke another word to me. It was years later that roofies, or the date rape drug, became known, and I knew that's what had happened. Now, over 40 years later, I still have very little memory about this, but I no longer need to understand it. I was able to get past this without lifelong trauma, most likely because I have so few memories of it. But that event didn't create a terrible future of fear or low self-worth as it does with so many. I don't know how you can get past something like that if you know what happened, but I do know that we can turn something like that into a terrible downward spiral, or we can raise our frequency to that of hope and love, and we can become someone who helps others by public speaking, online forums, or within support groups. Frequency is everything, guys, and I'm going to attempt to explain this very complex subject so that everyone can understand it. From a physics perspective, energy movement is governed by the second law of thermodynamics, which states that in an isolated system, entropy or disorder tends to increase over time. This means that energy is constantly and effortlessly moving toward a state of maximum entropy or disorder. The combination of all of the energy on Earth is known as the collective, which has been in a state of disarray for a very long time due to the entropic nature of energy or the beast. Now here's the rub. Unless energy, like us, is exposed to specific conditions or forces to bring balance, we will continue to spiral downward. A hot object in contact with a cold one will flow in an osmotic manner. Remember osmosis, where the higher concentration flows to the lower concentration to level out? Energy is like that. Think of water. In cold, the molecules stick tightly together. In heat, the molecules disperse and become fluid, which isn't necessarily a bad thing unless it completely disperses, and this is where balance, as opposed to any one excess, comes into play. Balance is important, with our tendency as energetic beings to move towards disorder. Without our brain stepping in with consciousness redirection, there is no purposeful quest for equilibrium. To restate this, in open systems like living organisms, energy can move toward balance, but this requires external work or energy input of some type because it is our nature to move towards entropy. This is done with our beliefs, our thoughts, and our emotions. I'm trying to make this as simple as I can, but this is a very tough concept, so I hope I'm making it clear enough. The idea of energy moving toward balance, when considered from a 3D biological standpoint, is often done with chemicals. In the body, we have feedback mechanisms which control how much of a certain chemical our body produces through a very incredible way that creates apparent stability. But entropy doesn't just disappear or dissipate. Our bodies put energy into the system in ways such as the absorption of sunlight or the metabolic production of energy from exercise or food. The body is designed for balance if we could only understand how important this is to our health and well-being. So let's talk about a few ways we can work on balance. It's really not that hard, and we've discussed them before. So I'm going to run through your options quickly. It just takes commitment in the beginning, and it gets easier as time goes on. I will break these down to categories, and you can choose from them. Try one in each category. Give it a couple weeks and see if your mood starts to elevate or you find better clarity. First, let's look at ways to find the truth and broaden your perspective. One way is doing exactly what you are doing right now. There is a wealth of information on the internet. The key is that if you don't have a science background, it's very easy to convince you of something using what I call bad medicine. I've discussed this before, but it's people that might have a title. They might even have good credentials, but they may not have a specific expertise in the area that their PhD is in. For instance, Dr. Jill Biden has a PhD in teaching or something, and that doesn't qualify her to be the Surgeon General, which is what some talking heads were pushing. So they might have a PhD, but it could be botany. Also, they may be controlled by the deep state matrix in some way. So even though something might sound reasonable to the layperson, it's easy to spot for people that aren't being paid and that have some sort of expertise in the area. How do you tell which is which? You should subscribe to YouTube or other podcasts or social media accounts that focus on good news or solutions and lift your frequency rather than creating fear in you. It's that simple. If you surround yourself in dark frequencies, it will drain your energy and reflect these dark frequencies back onto you. If you've never seen Dr. Emoto's work, I'll link it at the end. This doesn't mean not to listen to some of the reality or history that is quite sad. It means don't listen to it from somebody who's screaming and evoking anger. It's just not the goal, and you are no less human if you don't get angry. You are more Christ-like. In my younger days, I consumed inspirational reading just like it was my daily nourishment. Books like the Tao Te Ching, the Hu Hua Ching, works by Dr. Wayne Dyer and Esther Hicks were a few of my favorites, and I highly recommend them. Regarding the Tao Te Ching, it is a book that teaches us how to live a life of integrity. This is a very old tome, and it's been translated many, many times. I've read numerous translations, and I will link my favorite in the displayed shopping items or the description. Once you have a better understanding of what has happened to get us here and where we are now, it's important to shift your thinking away from chaos and disorder in this crazy world, and it is very challenging sometimes. There are many ways to reframe your thinking. Sometimes it's as simple as recognizing low frequencies and purposely redirecting your thoughts. This is called neurolinguistic programming, and I'll link a video about it at the end. One of the most effective practices that I've seen is gratitude journaling. It's quick and so easy. Just write down 3 things that you are grateful for every day before you start your day. You will be amazed how your day is just so much better and more positive. Challenge negative assumptions. This means don't assume the worst. Anticipate good outcomes. You see, if you assume that you are going to fail, then you will. This is the law of attraction, and some of these various practices can help you shift your thought to a more positive frequency. In today's world of constantly being on the phone, it's important to limit doom scrolling. Set boundaries for yourself regarding news and digital exposure that skew everything in a negative way. Just scroll right on by. Don't get involved with calling people stupid. Just don't engage in negative narratives. It takes you so far from where you should be to live a fulfilled and joyful life. Another way to find balance in your life is to maintain your inner world as much as you maintain your outer appearance. Practice mindfulness or meditation. This helps shift from fear-based reactivity to presence. Another technique is to use affirmations. I've mentioned that I've worn hospital bracelets with affirmations that I would change frequently. I also have several different decks of cards with affirmations that I hang up in obvious places, so each day I see them either consciously or subconsciously. Phrases like, "There is more good in the world than I can see right now." That's an affirmation. Engage in meaningful conversations with others. This is why I encourage you guys to interact with each other. Share your thoughts, your experiences, and your challenges. Next, you will want to empower yourself and make a difference. You can volunteer locally where you get to witness the impact of your efforts firsthand. This helps to restore our faith in humanity when we are near other people that give of themselves. One of my favorite volunteer positions was granting wishes to sick kids with Make-A-Wish. You can also support ethical businesses. If you are against animal experimentation, take just a moment to print out a list of cruelty-free products and preferentially buy from these businesses. You can also teach or mentor. Spread your knowledge around. Help guide others who may feel lost in these crazy times. Comfort them. Your kindness builds hope. It's also very important to tend to our mental and physical health. The harmful effects of stress are well documented and very common. I will also link a video about the physical effects of stress on your body. Nobody is saying that you have to follow a very strict diet or heavy exercise routine. You can take a few minutes in nature, take a walk, or just sit on the patio. It recenters our perspective naturally. Also, we must move our bodies. Again, it doesn't have to take an hour. You don't even have to do it all at once. I do lift light weights, but also I try to increase my daily physical activity. I walk or run up the steps a little faster. When I'm watching a movie with good music, I might get up and dance to the song. Just jump around. I don't care what it looks like. I'm moving, which just improves so many things. Another action you should take is to eat mindfully. Don't just sit there and munch down without even realizing how much you are eating. I portion out my food and I take my time eating. My body loves it when I relax. If you eat too fast or on the run, all kinds of bad things begin happening with our digestion. So do pay attention to what goes into your mouth. If there is one single thing that you can do to improve your health, I think that the poisons in processed foods are far worse than the poisons of non-organic foods. Remember, it's not one thing, it's the accumulation of toxins. So every move you make to reduce the toxins is important to stay or become healthy. Okay, guys, that gives you some things to think about. This is your path. Nobody is going to push you or force you to do anything. It's up to each of us to make that commitment. It's up to each and every one of us to take the steps to become a winner. Please help me with the channel by hitting the like button. I know that over 100,000 of you have subscribed, but my stats tell me that the number of you getting notifications is low, so please don't forget to hit the bell and you will be sure not to miss a video. If you want to help me financially, you can shop anywhere on the channel, become a monthly member, or leave a one-time tip under the Super Thanks button below the video. Until next time, let's think about this quote by Albert Einstein. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. Directing that change is the essence of power.